Welcome back. So the International Court of Justice will on Thursday and Friday hold public hearings and proceedings launched by South Africa over the war between Israel and Hamas. Last week, South Africa was the first country to file a suit at the ICJ accusing Israel of being in violation of the 1948 Genocide Convention. Well, we get more analysis on this, and for that we're joined by Advocate Sipho Mantula, researcher at the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs at Unisa. Advocate, a good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us as we get closer and closer to seeing those public hearings taking place at the end of the week. Perhaps your initial thoughts just at the news arriving that South Africa was the first country to file this suit.
Refreshing morning, Naledi, and to your viewers. I think what came to my thought, Naledi, was that for 75 years, this Genocide Act and the law in the United Nations have never been tested. Despite that, we know that Gambia did also take the matter up with the ICJ. I think for us, as even the part of the continent, we are trying to test the United Nations human rights system. And secondly, I think what is important, it is for us to raise this issue that beyond going through United Nations Security Council, we are pursuing the international law now to pursue this question of Israel occupation of Palestine for more than 70 years. So it is important for us to say that as we are engaging on this matter, South Africa, it is also having support from other nations, other countries outside the African continent, supporting this 84-page file that we have pursued towards the end of the year in 2023. So it is very important for us as we are going to the ICJ to push this immediate conflict, that it will come to an end, despite, as I was listening to yesterday, Prof was saying that he's not certain how long will it take. But remember, we are pushing that this is an extra agent and it's an emergency issue that we should pursue at an international court.
It's interesting in that 84-page document that you mentioned, which is essentially what we filed with, what South Africa has filed with the International Court of Justice. The level of detail that really is in that document, and I'm sure you've taken a look at it. I mean, the fact that South Africa has intentionally focused on the Genocide Convention and the word genocide being one that is emphasized quite emphatically. I mean, what do you make of that? Has South Africa proven their case sufficiently in this document that you think they'll be able to convince the hearings that this in fact is a genocide as they view it in Gaza? Absolutely,
Naledi. What I've looked into it is to look at that both parties, South Africa, Israel, they are the signatories to this Genocide Act in terms of how they have committed that they will respect the international humanitarian law. And second, when you look at our claim, when you look at almost page 70, that's where we are going into detail on our claims now to say that there is a need for an immediate end of the conflict. And in terms of dealing with humanitarian crisis, the issue of children were proven. And also remember, when we are proving genocide, we are also proving intention. When I look at our evidence, our case of evidence, I mean our file of evidence on the facts, they are highly loaded in the sense that they are able to take you through what happened October 7 until today. So one can look at that, our file, it is clear that we have proven that the genocide laws have been violated by Israel by coming with all articles from Article 1 to Article 5 of the Genocide Act to say that Israel have committed the act and it must respond and must end. Remember that this law of genocide, it's all about prevention and also punishment. So it is important that we need to know that our claim or our claim that we are putting before this court is to say that, but we have an evidence that has been proven. I mean, we have also targeted the head of state of Israel, the ministers, their media statements that they have been going on, and the attacks that have been reported by the United Nations humanitarian agents. So I think we have tried to canvass and looking at the team of the legal experts that have been called upon. I mean, you can think of John Dugat, he's an international law expert. You think of Tembeka Nunkaitobi, and you look at the other young advocates who are supporting this team. they have come up with a clear evidence that they are pushing that come the public hearings on Thursday and Friday, and it will be only for 2 hours, Naledi. Remember that for that 84 pages, we must summarize it within 2 hours, only on Thursday. And Friday, Israel has to respond.
And it's an extensive document, and this is the thing, and this is why I wanted to touch a little bit on it. And if you allow me, you quote from, or you mentioned the content coming out of it, and if you'll allow me, on page 60, the submission that South Africa essentially made to the International Court of Justice. In there, the document seeks to even quote various utterances by Israeli officials that the document says point to genocide and not just a conflict. In fact, on page 60, the document goes on to say that on the 12th of October 2023, President Isaac Herzog of Israel made clear that Israel was not distinguishing between militants and civilians in Gaza, stating in a press conference to foreign media in relation to Palestinians in Gaza, over 1 million of whom are children. Then it quotes, "It's an entire nation out there that is responsible. It's not true, this rhetoric about civilians not aware and not involved. It's absolutely not true." So again, a difficult one for them to summarize within the 2 hours that they have to do so on Thursday. Let's talk about the countries that then you expect to come out and support South Africa in this mission.
No, remember that we have seen the countries from the East Europe. We have seen other African countries also pledging their support, but also looking at those countries. They've looked at the genocide laws of the United Nations. They've looked at our even case, our 84-page file, and they've seen that South Africa has been very consistent since October when we were before the United Nations Security Council. Remember when the BRICS countries met, they also raised the issue of the Middle East. And when we went to the UN Security Council, we also emphasized on this issue that genocide is happening in Gaza, and if we don't stop it, we might have the same case of Rwanda, what happened in 1993 in Rwanda. So it is very important that when we look at the other countries that are very sympathetic to our cause, it also will include that the P5, we know that USA, Britain, they will not be on the side of us, but Russia, China, they will definitely support South African case, because they know that the issue of the Middle East also, it is around the global superpowers that are fighting on this case, and it is around the issues of also ethnicity, issues of religion, issues of humanitarian cause. So one will look that those countries, they will definitely not want to undermine the UN Charter on Human Rights, because the other document that we have not mentioned, Naledi, is that the UN Charter on Human Rights talks about saving the succeeding generations from the scourges of war. So it is important for us to can contextualize that in the sense that all member states of the United Nations, when they go to the UN General Assembly, they've been talking about global peace building in the region and in the globe. So I think that South Africa has already canvassed many member states to be on their side, beginning, as I said earlier, with the UN Security Council briefing that was chaired by Brazil in October.
Yeah, we could talk for a very long time if we really are to look at the various bits of this document, but I do want to wrap it up. But we had a conversation earlier with Thabo about what this says about brand South Africa. What do you think the story what do you think is the story that South Africa is telling to the world by taking this move?
I think we are shaping the global human rights system. The international reputation, I think it will be against Israel, not against us. One will assume that we should not worry about our international reputation, because we are, like I've said, we are testing and we are also shaping the global human rights system in the world. And I think South Africa will be remembered in the pages of history.
Yeah, we really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Always a pleasure. Advocate Sipho Mantula, researcher with the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs at Unisa, speaking to us there.